through the African country, and CT, who's not here today, normally comes back with a proverb from a different African country every day of the week. We'd like to share that proverb with you today, and Mark will tell you where it's from, and then we would love your interpretation of the same. All right.
Well, karibu to the Situation Room.
Asante.
Now, these proverbs not only come from a country called Mozambique,
Yes.
which I'm sure you know where it is,
Yes.
but do you know there are a group of 6 islands near Mozambique?
I'm not sure, but you will tell me more
Well,
about
according to the great sage CT, he says there is.
Yes.
And I'm inclined to believe him. He's a brilliant researcher.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the proverb: by being grateful, a man makes himself deserving of yet another kindness.
it. Yes.
What is the interpretation?
Yes, what it simply means is that whenever you get an opportunity, and maybe you get it through support, if you are grateful many a times, you create an opportunity to be supported once more, if need be.
Yeah.
Compared to a situation where you've been supported in one way or another, and then you end up not getting grateful and maybe puking on somebody's shoe. Then definitely what happens is that you are calling for a situation where you may not be able to get similar support when you may need it. Yes.
Interesting. Spoken like a true communicator.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And again, welcome to you. We last saw you, before this, of course, in other roles as the police spokesperson. And we're speaking to you this morning in your capacity as the chairperson of the National Communication Center. Now, even as we get into that, maybe into that conversation, give us a little bit of insight into what this National Communication Center actually does and what your role is here.
First of all, I'm not the chairman. I'm the head of the National Communication Center.
Okay.
It's a public service job. National Communication Center is a new center. It's still under development. It's still under the process because, we did not have, the country did not have a national communication policy. Neither have we ever had a national communication strategy. All this time. And strategy have a period, a time limit, because you see, your policy may take longer, but depending on situation, you may keep on changing. But strategy must have a lifespan, maybe 3 years, 4 years. So what we are trying to do was to get an institution that would be able to, it is a depository and advisory center that is able to coordinate all MDAs, ministries, departments, agencies. You've looked in the past, we have had situations where people trying to say the same thing, but saying it differently. And sometimes there are government agencies that ought to speak with one voice.
Okay.
So what happens is, like, for example, I give you an example of when we had the finance bill, the 2020, I think it was 2023, 2024. You find that if you look at not just the one which passed or the one which is on, if you get the explainer in the newspaper, what comes from Treasury, very few people would be able to understand what is the implication of maybe what has been provided for in the bill. I give you an example of the 2023-2024, and then I'll also give you another example on 2024 on the same line, where you find that before, all civil servants upon retirement were subject to a tax of almost 30%. So if your lump sum is 10 million, then your 3 million goes. Then in that financial bill that we rejected, it provided that for any person who had worked for more than who had contributed for more than 21 years, was able to get his pension tax-free. that the 30% did not apply, or anybody who has been retired based on issues of sickness would also not be taxed. 21 years continuous payment in civil service would mean that even if you are employed at age 29, if you contribute for 21 years, that means at age 50. Civil service from age 50, you are eligible to ask for retirement and get your benefits. So you find that sometimes the way it is written in the finance bill, people are not able to understand some of those issues. Like now, this year, you find that in the retirement bit of it, you find that the issue of, it was only applying to civil service, but now it is even applying to corporate. Every person who goes for retirement is not subject to that 30%, the taxation which they are giving. There are also other issues. So you find that, for example, the center is supposed to look at, let's say, the finance bill, synthesize it in a communicable way that people would be able to understand what they are doing. Equally, you find that there are a number of issues, like, for example, in terms of government, a number of things are taking place. Like now you understand we had this problem of how do you call it? The university, the fee structure in the universities, where they came up with what we call band.
The funding model.
The funding model, band 1, band 2, band 3, band 4, band 5. You will find that it's done in a way that ordinarily people may not understand what it is. It's advantage, it's disadvantage. And then you find that, for example, if you look at the funding structure, about 79% is payable by government and 21% is payable by parents. But the main question would be, when we analyze it, the main question would be, what is the problem? You'd find that the problem is, like, for example, government is not, out of the 79%, there's no year from 2016, government only gives maybe 30% or 40% of that 79%. So it makes universities have a lot of problems. So these are some of the things that the center is supposed to do. To be an advisory center, you can advise government. We think this model has this problem. How can we adjust it? We also would advise the public, and equally the public would be able to get much of information from our website on our center. So it's supposed to be an advisory, depository. It's supposed to be depository, depository, and an advisory center for government.
Interesting. And how then does that augur into the system of the government spokesperson, the secretaries of communication in various ministries, and State House itself? And then what is this thing that monitors?
Advisory committee as well?
Yes. It is supposed to support all those organs. For example, if you are today talking about agriculture, or you are talking about housing, the pillars that the current government has put in place, or even if you are talking about health, what is supposed to happen is that the center is supposed to give real-time information, even in terms of statistics, in terms of what is going on. So the office of the government spokesperson is supposed to pick a lot of information. You are like a synthesizing team, a group that picks information, puts it together. So from that information, you find that even if you're a member of parliament and you want to talk about maybe a certain activity in government, then what happens is that you can go to our system and pick the real-time information, so that you find that every individual should be able to speak from the same line, the same voice, have similar statistics, not a situation where somebody wakes up and then you have imaginary information and you talk about it. When you go counter-checking, you find this information is not true. And that is where you find people start talking about government lying. So this is a center that is supposed to support all these institutions. This is where they're supposed to get their correct statistics, correct data, information. And then that should be able to support them in their communication. It's a supporting agency.
My question to you,
yes,
because I've interacted with you as a police spokesperson.
Yes.
And we had a lot of engagements around police work.
Yes.
Now you are part of, what you're doing as the chair of the National Communication Center.
The head of the National Communication
Center.
Center, yeah.
So communication, in my understanding,
yes,
tends to be top down.
Yes.
But the current feeling is there's minimal feedback from citizens or from the public. You gave an example of the finance bill.
Yes.
There are obviously sentiments from the public. There is what the government was also trying to articulate. And you said that sometimes it's not presented well. It's not broken down into chewable bits, so to speak.
Yes.
My question is, do you feel that you are listening to the ground? Like I said, it's top down.
Yes.
You're communicating, but you're also getting feedback.
Yes.
Are you listening to the citizens of this country in matters of national interest? Are you doing a good job at it?
What I can say, I don't know whether you are asking as the head of the
Yes.
center or as government. You see, as an advisory center, we are supposed to pick all information. What government thinks is good, what government thinks is bad. Ours is advisory. We deposit, and we advise. I've given you just one example where you find that the funding model system for the university, where you find that model 1, you are giving the government is, because we have 2 levels. We have help, the loan, and also we have the grant. So it was divided into 2. So you find government is giving 90%, 70% grant, then 20%, 25% loan, then the parent 5%. That is in model 1. Coming down up to the 5th model, where you find that government is giving 40% grant, 30% grant, 40% grant, 30% loan, and then the parent pays another 30%. So what happens is that when we look at, let's say, that kind of a model, you find that it has its advantages, it has its disadvantages. One area that we advised government was most students in the first time when the model was given, you find students in a village, they go to a cyber and then they give their documents. So what happens is that the information they are giving in the cyber is what the cyber person is feeling, not the correct information. So you found many students finding themselves in a wrong model. So that was area number 1 that we had to advise. That means we were listening to the problem of the public because we were questioning how come children are getting themselves in wrong models. There are also children who do not want to admit they come from poor families. They don't want to feel the correct information, not knowing the implication. And lastly, a situation where you find that, yes, even if parents pay 100%, the 21%, and then government pays to pay the 79%, pays maybe 30% of that, universities are getting into problems. So you find that when we analyze a situation, the government, we have to advise the government on what they are supposed to do. But remember, they are top technocrats who will make decisions in some of the things they are doing. For example, we now have the issue of deductions of about 1.5% or 1.75% for housing and the one for health. The information we are getting from civil servants is that their pay slips are overloaded.
Maybe the whole country, not just civil servants.
Yes. No, I'm saying, for example, from anybody that is getting deducted, the pay slip is overloaded. So our report back after we've listened to that is to advise government that this is the report from the public. So what will happen is at the end of the day, when government is coming up with policies, they look at the implication of the advice that we are giving them and they'll make a decision on what should be done.
I am really puzzled.
Yes.
Because let's start with ministers.
Yes.
Ministers are advisors to the president.
Yes.
In their area of being delegated to,
yes.
right? We have PSs who do the same thing.
Yes.
Then we have the whole civil service infrastructure,
yes.
From the treasury all the way to forestry,
yes.
if you desire.
Yes.
Then we've got the office of each minister, which has advisors,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Then we've got the office of the president, which has advisors on any field the president chooses to have.
Yes.
Then we have our intelligence community,
yes.
which is able to filter the data, the information, all of those things, and sit daily with the president to advise him.
Yes.
And all of this advice, now including the NCC, which
yes.
you had,
yes.
is the problem really lack of advice?
No, I don't think so. You see, just like you said that every ministry has its line. we are in the line of Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy. And I want to give you the background why we came up with this. In the Ministry of Information and Digital Economy, we have two departments, the Broadcasting Department and the ICT Department. Under the Broadcasting Department, we have information officers and communication officers. Every ministry, we have information officers that have been posted to those ministries. And we also have communication officers who have been posted to those ministries. Now, the problem that we have faced as a Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy is that every minister, when they come with their communication advisors. So when they come with these advisors, those gentlemen who have been in the ministry as communication officers, who have been posted from the ministry, many a times, they are assumed.
True.
But remember, these are the guys who have the institutional memory. For example, if you have worked in this place for many years, there's a bit of institutional memory. A person can be brought who is, yes, your boss, but at the end of the day, there's need for your boss to consult you. So we had situations where our communication officers in ministries, when ministers come, they come with their communication officers.
Yeah.
So you find that trench was giving us a hell of time, because you find that coordination is not there. And that is why now the ministry decided, no, what we do, because remember, the office of the government spokesperson was also in the ministry, but it went to office of the president. It's not in the ministry. Yes, it's in OP. It is not in the ministry.
Okay.
So, but when a problem arises, like when we had problems with Gen Zs and so on and so forth, you hear a problem saying that the ministry ends up getting blamed. We are not communicating. So in order to coordinate communication in the whole government, they said, no, let's have a center where we can do repository and depository for all ministries. And then now the ministries can work. The ministry would know exactly what the ministries are doing in terms of communication for purposes of coordination. So it is not advice per se to the head of state, but it is a way of aligning our communication system. Remember, politically, we have various levels of communication, because within the State House, we must have a communication officer, head of communication. We have the spokesperson for State House, who majorly does work for the president and the State House duties. We have the government spokesperson in a different place. We have the Minister for Information and Communication. So there was need for us to come up with a center that would be able to coordinate all these institutions, not advisory directly to the president.
So does the overarching message, whatever it will be at whatever juncture, is it does it stay away from what the political side of things are? Because the message that comes across right now in Kenya today, I mean, we can talk about the brick and mortar in terms of what is supposed to happen, but the message that is coming across to Kenyans today is highly political. It is about wants and intents of what is going to happen in the next election.
Yeah.
Is that part of what should be steered towards the minds of Kenyans right now? Or is it what government is or is not doing?
You see, the ideal situation ought to be after elections, governments should work for 5 years. And then we start our politics at the end, at the time when now elections is supposed to take place. But you see, we have had a situation where we have been all through, I think from since we came up with multi-party democracy, from 1992, we have had a situation where we carry out elections and immediately after elections, campaigns start. And I can tell you, it's not even at the national level only. Even if you go to constituencies, even wards, an MCA has been elected. A year down the line, you find there are about 6 people coming to that ward, attending funerals, attending arambes, attending church functions, campaigning. They want to become MCAs. At the level of constituencies, also you find somebody has just been elected. The following year or within 6 months, there are about 10 people who are also looking for this seat. They are out there carrying out arambes. They are out there in churches. They are out there in funerals. it moves like that. Gubernatorial, the same.
Why do you think that is?
If you go to presidential, also there are people aligned who want to become presidents. You see, what I can say is that our politics somehow has not matured much, but it is also encouraged by the public.
How?
I give you an example. If you go where I come from, like let's say in Luo Nyanza, it's very clear that no matter your ability, no matter your articulation, no matter what you try to put forward, it is very difficult. You will talk to the public, but at the end of the day, they'll ask you, but what is Jacom saying? You see, it's public has encouraged that. Save for the constituency where I come from, that twice we have elected a non-ODM MP, David Ochieng of Ugenya, for 2 occasions.
Yeah.
It's a very peculiar situation.
And David is a peculiar politician as well.
Yes, it's a very peculiar situation that has happened. But majorly, you find that it is the public at the end of the day. Like now, people will talk. You will hear about this candidate, about that candidate, about that candidate. But I can tell you, at the end of the day, when people go to vote, you will find people voting for their person. And this idea of voting for our person, that a Luo cannot just vote a Kamba or just vote a Kikuyu without a coalition, because I'm sure 2027 we'll see coalitions. You will find even you may find there may be no UDA or it may not exist. You've seen what has happened there may be no ODM, there may be no Wiper. You've seen what has happened since 20, since the time for Kibaki. I think they came with it was Rainbow.
He was in DP.
He was
then
in
it was
DP.
the Rainbow
It was
Coalition.
Rainbow Coalition.
It was NAC, then Rainbow Coalition.
Yes.
Then 2007, it was PNU.
Yes.
Versus ODM Pentagon.
Pentagon, yes.
Yeah.
Then going forward again, now we had the
COD
and URP and Jubilee.
Yes.
Yes.
So you can look at our politics. It's not, if we have not grown like where you find in UK, we have consistently the Labour and the other one is what? The Conservative Party.
Yes.
And maybe some minor parties. You go to US, we have the Democratic Party and the Republicans.
And
so
some minor parties, yeah.
I think we need to, the public need to change. It's the politicians will never change landscape. It's the public that will change landscape.
How
unless
so?
Unless we are very lucky, one day to get a politician that would be able to whip Kenyans across. But basically, every politician goes for his interest. And if the public allows, then the situation continues. You don't expect politicians to come and fix your problems.
How do you suppose, or how do you propose that would happen? We're going to take a break in a short few minutes, but how do you propose that would happen? That the public then would essentially then be able to change the tide, where it is clear that politicians, to a certain extent, will only engage in this real politic because of personal expediency, as opposed to securing and protecting the livelihoods of Kenyans.
Yes.
How do you think that Kenyans would actually change that?
Kenya is in a very good position because if you look at our level of literacy, it's quite good. People have gone to school, and we need to take advantage of our levels of literacy to, you see, for example, if you look at most of the appointments, you find that people will go to certain lines, support a particular individual because he knows if this person gets a position, then I'll be able to get an appointment in this position. So you find that what would happen is that we are looking for a situation where the public would be able, you would find a situation, like for example today, if we have the sitting president, and then he wakes up tomorrow and he finds his community is not voting him, then he must think twice. If, for example, where I come from in Luo Nyanza, if Raila wakes up tomorrow and finds that the Luos have drifted, they are voting people that he has not told them to vote. It will be a different situation.
And I think that's a problem, isn't it? That we're focusing on what the politician wants instead of focusing on what the politician, when they've been given an opportunity to do a job, should actually be doing and delivering.
Yes.
But they're focusing on these other things.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with the public, but it has everything to do with the drive that an individual should have in terms of implementing and doing their job, wouldn't you say?
And that's what I'm saying, that it is important that because we have now, our level of literacy is high, our level of understanding is high. Kenyans need to think on looking at individuals from the point that what can this person deliver for the whole country compared to what is this person delivering for my community.
For my community.
Yes.
We're talking this morning with Charles Owino, who is the head of the National Communication Center. We're continuing now as we come back from this break, looking into the wider politics and looking at an opposition and essentially what that means and how this is communicated in terms of the needs of Kenyans. We'll come back. It is now 27 to 8 and you're getting into a new week and you're probably looking at, okay, so the month is coming to that point and you're saying, okay, we need to get one or two. Well, are you looking for value that stretches your shilling? You need to let Naivas be your home of deals. At Naivas, we know shopping isn't just about ticking off a list, it's about the experience. And that's why your Kikapu Kibonge is more than just a shopping basket. It's big, it's bountiful, and guess what? It never gets full. With unbeatable promotions, exclusive discounts, and everyday low prices, you just keep adding more and still spend less. So, from farm fresh ingredients to those little household must-haves, everything you need is waiting at your nearest Naivas Kiloko. So come, fill your Kikapu with value, variety, and the warmth of a true Kenyan shopping experience. Karibu Naivas, the home of deals.
As the sun rises, so do we, as we trust it to rise and set without any worries interrupting your day. StarTime's home solar solution with solar panels, hybrid inverter, and lithium battery, powering your prosperity and happier life, empowering you to do the things that really matter. A complete and reliable home solar solution. Call us today. StarTime Solar. Power your life.
This May, unlock a year of trusted news, in-depth analysis, and premium content from The Standard. Subscribe to the e-paper and The Standard Insider and get 20% off your yearly subscription. This is your opportunity. Access the essential news and analysis at a valuable price. Subscribe today to standardmedia.co.ke. You are what you read. Offer ends May 31st.
To be the second son is both a blessing and a curse, as I set an example to my younger brothers and live up to my older brother Dave. More than being a son, my devotion is to my family and to the woman I love. I am Gerald Anderson, and I am Paco Estrella, a brother, a husband. Keep it here on A Family Affair.
A Family Affair.
Bells will always have news of tradition and things we need to follow. The trading bell, however, will always have news of precision, where industry makers and market movers have their stories to tell.
We want to exit some of the companies to the capital market so that we can deepen the market.
The thing about leadership is you're doing everything, but I think what's not seen is it's a very strong support team that on a day-to-day basis enables you to do well.
The performance of the shilling has a direct bearing on inflation because we import quite significantly the amount of goods that we consume in this country.
So tune in every Tuesday night at 7:30 for your dose of the trading bell, where industry movers and market shakers have their stories to tell that happened right here at the Bauhaus.
Charles is of the opinion that the public must then shape this conversation to move in a certain direction. Dennis?
You spoke about, how the public needs to change and this whole perception of how politicians shape narratives. As head of, the National Communications Center, there's what I would call threats within and there are threats without. We've got dissenting voices and all these other people you'd call opposition speaking and shaping narratives. But you also have, the narratives being shaped within. Correct me if I'm wrong, not too long ago, I read somewhere where you spoke about, the threats within with now this arrangement of the broad-based, government structure, where, for example, the interior PS, there's a threat to kick him out because of the politics within. How serious is this within government?
I don't think it was within government. I think the interior, the PS for interior comes from Homa Bay. And in Homa Bay, from inside, because this is highly political, but I'll comment on it. I commented on it because when we unfortunately lost the Member of Parliament, Honorable Were, there was a lot of push from the governor and her team. And you could even see when people were yelling the day the body was taken, somebody was saying, Mola has just killed Were, and you guys are just seeing he has killed Were in Nairobi. They were mentioning the PS name in a very negative way. And the PS, you see, was on the front line with the DCI and with the head of and with the IG, and you could see most of the time they were pressing for arrest of these persons who committed the offenses. And fortunately, the person who pulled the trigger, the firearm itself was recovered and a number of issues. And you remember, I saw somebody trying to twist what I'd said. I'd said that ordinarily, when a person of that influence, you see, influence is not just somebody in power. Influence is also money. You will find somebody with a lot of money who is not even in government, even controlling the systems from remote. It's normal, it happens. So what happens is that I said that ordinarily, a person with that kind of power, a person in charge of police, he has sent police to arrest a person who is a killer. They have identified a killer. If truly he's involved in such an act, truly if he's involved in planning to kill a person, nothing will stop him from eliminating this person he has sent to kill you, because he has the access, he has the power, he has the police. But if you see a person committing himself to ensure that the killers are arrested, brought to book, taken to court, because you can't stop them from speaking. And I'm sure a number of people who have been arrested who never actually participated could have been mentioned. Though it's a matter before court, sometimes you find it is very difficult to go into details. It was the politicians in Homa Bay, because there is a talk that the brother to the PS wants to run as a governor. And maybe the governor knows or feels that there would be a higher influence on this. Remember, governor is a lady married in Homa Bay. She comes from Kisumu County. And you know the way sometimes people have issues with women, trying to demean them, you know very well women in power, the way they get a lot of challenges. So what happened is that there was a section of people from Homa Bay who are trying to push a narrative with a feeling that when they push that narrative, because definitely you have heard the political party, ODM people saying they have donated people. And you can see the only 3 people that the president appointed from Luo Nyanza was Owalo, CS Owalo, we had PS Kombudo, and we had Omolo. And sure, the 2 have gone. The person remaining is only Raymond. Are you getting me? So it's not a secret. We wouldn't say that it is at that high level. But you see, when people in Homa Bay, a number of people who are politicians who feel threatened, try to push that narrative the way they were pushing it, was to try and whip emotions to ensure that this person loses his job. It's not strange. Yeah.
And because these conversations have started, and the people you're referring to are from ODM, do you see this, what I'll call this marriage of convenience, working in the next 2 years before 2027?
What I can say is simple. That us who have worked with government and we were coming from the Luo community. You know, Luo community is a very strange community. That they vote purely on one side. If they decide to vote for government through the influence of their political leader, all of them will vote for government. If they say they are walking out of government, all of them will walk out of government. But if you compare this to other communities, take for example, Kikuyu community, Mount Kenya community, you'll find some of them are voting for the government and some of them are in opposition. Same applies to Kamba, same applies to Coast, same applies to just a minute, same applies to Western, many a times. But the Luo community votes on one side. So what happens is, even many a times when government is formed, you may find that very few of them are in government at that particular time. Now, when the ODM team came into government, our understanding was that there was a feeling that there were divisions and instability, and they were coming in to ensure that government is stable. And I cannot take offense of that, because you've seen what has happened in Africa. We have a very vibrant constitution. And the best thing that can happen to us is we wait for 5 years as much as we oppose. We go through an election. If Kenyans feel they don't want their sitting president, remove him through the ballot. But if we start removing our presidents through anarchy, then we may get into problems. Because even through that anarchy, even today, if you go to the so-called opposition, where we have the deputy president, you saw the other day him saying, I'm still not very comfortable with Matiang'i because he has not shown that his people are truly following him. So you may come up and remove a government through anarchy. Then again, the team starts fighting. And then it goes and it goes and it goes. And therefore, the biggest investment Kenyans should always think about is that we have a vibrant democracy. And that the only thing we can do is we move with a government that we have elected. And it does not mean that you cannot correct it, you cannot oppose it. And that is the advantage of multi-party democracy.
How do you register? How do you register disappointment? Because here we are talking about how your office coordinates the messaging from government. Right? And you've used words like anarchy, for example. But here we are talking with a people who are sovereign and who have delegated the responsibility to these individuals who are in the minority about how they're going to rule the nation, essentially lead or guide the nation. So how does a people register their disappointment or disapproval of ways in which these are happening without it being called anarchy? They don't have the privilege of an office through where there is a head or a spokesman. So what they know is to open their mouths and speak on any public channel that they have.
When I talk about anarchy, I'm not talking about talking and opposition. I'm talking about things like going out to the street, burning vehicles, destroying properties, saying we are going to occupy State House and remove the president. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about communication, general communication. And what I'm saying is that our structure is such that, what we're talking about is the morals of individuals. For example, if you are in opposition and there is government, your duty is to work as an opposition person. That is what is expected of you. And therefore, you discuss matters national in the floor of the House. Are you getting me? You discuss matters national in the floor of the House. And that is why you have a representation. So the moment you are in opposition and you don't do your duty, then you are creating opportunity for the persons whom you are representing to get out of their way and even cause chaos, as it is put.
You know, I absolutely agree with you.
Yes.
I once was asked last year, what is the best way to deal with the sentiment that Gen Z was feeling and is feeling?
Yes.
And I always said, give them opposition.
Yes.
Because the problem is when these young people feel like they do not have space to express themselves,
yes.
both in terms of their leadership. And let's look at the genesis of the revolt anyway. The young people were feeling like their MPs were not speaking their language.
Yes.
Right? That's where it came from. So you're absolutely right.
Yes.
That opposition should be the venting ground for the public that feels disappointed with their government.
Yes.
I also agree with you that the pathway of getting a shortcut before 2027, of getting the president out, all of those pathways lead to anarchy.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
But now, as you speak of opposition, there are a few things that I disagree with. So number one, I do not think Nyanza, and Luo Nyanza specifically, votes all the time behind Raila Odinga, simply because they come out 60%, yes, to vote 80% for Raila Odinga, but there's another 40% that is disgruntled that they do not have an option away from Raila Odinga. So at the core of it, the core question is this: what, in your imagination today, constitutes of that opposition that is supposed to go to parliament and actually then discuss the issues that pain Kenyans, unless we're talking of the person of Edwin Sifuna and two other people?
You know, when you talk about Edwin Sifuna and two other people,
but it's just hyperbole.
I can.
Yes.
Maybe I can trust Orengo's sentiments because Orengo comes from a constituency where he can easily be rejected by his people. But you see, Sifuna comes from, his larger vote is Nairobi. And you know, Nairobi has a lot of, if you look at the population, people are more informed, people are more independent. And equally, there's also a large population of communities that would otherwise have totally drifted to a position of opposition. So he must speak their language. Politicians are are people that take advantage of situations, and therefore he must speak a language that will benefit his re-election.
Yes.
If you look at them across board, even those ones you see in other areas speaking, some of them don't even believe in what they are saying. They are saying things that would favor their election. In fact, utaambiwa, why are you taking this stand? When mjinga sana. I want to give an example. You know, civil servants are apolitical. So you may find yourself in a situation where you are a civil servant.
When it comes to dispensing their job?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are apolitical. So you may find yourself in a situation where you are a civil servant, you are apolitical, but your community is strongly in opposition. They are doing, I give you an example. I was a police spokesperson for a long time. And I was discussing matters, demonstrations. And you look at what the Constitution provides, that your demonstration must be peaceable and must be unarmed. And then you find that the demonstrations majorly are not, if it is done in that matter, people may feel they'll not achieve, they may not be listened to.
Yeah.
So what happens is that at the end of the day, when now you say, like when I said now I want to leave government early, I want to go and run for a position, and this is my manifesto, this is my position. You find that the political leaders in your community will tell you, you are against us. they feel you are not, they don't understand you are doing your job as a civil servant. They'll say you are against us. But then you could see the lady who is now Governor Homa Bay could pour water on the speaker, the late Laboso. And that becomes a plus. You've done something which is not very good, but because it serves the interests of your people, or you can abuse somebody on the podium. So you find that many a times, politicians tend to do things that favor their re-election or their political position. And that is why we are saying that even the so-called Gen Zs, as we speak today, we pray that they become reasonable in their thinking, reasonable in their discussion. And when time comes for elections, they bring in leaders who will be able to transform the country.
Are you able to define or describe what reasonable, whether it's thinking or speaking? And I'm going to connect that. I'm going to connect that to something, for example, and it's part of what you spoke about earlier. When we see in Kenya that somebody, and I say that very specifically, that somebody has been killed, murdered, in whatever circumstance.
Yes.
And that in one instance, for example, we see that the speed and alacrity with which it has been attended to is phenomenal.
Yes.
In very many other situations, we do not see anything that has been done in terms of bringing those particular killers to book. How would you imagine that one would be reasonable in their thinking and their speaking when they were to address an issue such as that?
I would not fully agree with you unless we do a comparative analysis of cases. Having been a police officer for many years, and from where I sit, criminal investigation officers have been able to bring murderers to book, a number of them, maybe save for a few cases.
I'm talking about the ones specifically from last year when we're talking about the Gen Z. Those are the ones I'm specifically speaking about.
The Gen Zs, the ones, you see, the specific cases you are talking about, it depends that, like for example, I want to give you a very good example of this particular case of Mheshimiwa Were, and I'm not supposed to discuss it because it is in court, but you find that from the time they were in parliament, there were clear evidence that this person, there are people who went, sat with the drivers, talked to the drivers. Then the same people are seen trailing him up to the point where he's killed. It makes it very easy for you to get this. Now, some of these cases that we are talking about, unless I pick a specific case of a specific Gen Z that maybe was killed, that his matter has not been resolved, I would be able to answer. But for example,
that's the problem. And that's the issue.
Yes.
That this information, because of this, it's sub juris, we can't discuss it. But this information did not jump out at people. They looked into it, and that's how they got the information.
Yes.
The question is, why did a similar action not take place for one other individual?
Give me
Mukuria. I'll call his name. Mukuria is missing from the 25th of June until today.
He's missing.
Mukuria cannot be found. However, the last time he was seen was entering into a police vehicle on the 25th of June. He was being bundled into a police vehicle by police. They're the last ones who saw him.
Now I can explain this. One, when a person dies in a circumstance that you think a person is involved, and in this case, I would quote you, that he was seen in a police vehicle, and therefore, the belief would be the police arrested him. And if the police arrested him, then the police must produce him. So what we are saying is simple. When a person dies in a circumstance, if you read the Criminal Procedure Act, that it is believed that he has been killed by another person, or he has been taken away by another person. Usually what happens is we always have what we call an inquiry into the cause of death. An inquest. This inquest, just listen to me. This inquest can be instigated by the policemen themselves. But in this case, if there's a feeling they were involved, it can be instigated by any other person, including a lawyer. The matter would go before a magistrate having jurisdiction. Witnesses will be brought. And if these guys were seen into a particular vehicle, you know, the good thing about police is that you will never go for work without booking it in the occurrence book. And therefore, it is very easy to tell this was the vehicle, and therefore, these were the people. And they will be subjected because he was seen. You know, sometimes Kenyans just talk. You find somebody saying he was seen. But now if you ask him, can you record a statement? Can you go before the magistrate and give evidence? Nobody comes forward.
Just a quick one.
Yes.
A quick one.
Yes.
Let me just zoom out a bit.
Yes.
And discuss the issue of Gen Z. And a very important statement that you said.
Yes.
You said if they become reasonable and if they vote correctly.
Yes.
There are various implications. One is that they're unreasonable. Two is that there's an expectation for them to become reasonable. And my question to that is, who is supposed to make them reasonable? Then number 3, if we already approach them from the sense that they are unreasonable, right? Then are we saying that the issues that they raise, the pain that they feel, being unreasonable, should be treated as such?
I want to answer you.
Yes.
I'm not saying the agencies are unreasonable.
Thank God.
Are you getting me?
I'm agreeing with you, sir.
And you know, me, I have like 8 agencies in my house. My children. And I know they are not unreasonable.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if they vote reasonably, because we have never voted reasonably as Kenyans. You and I.
We are on the same page.
Are you getting me? You and I,
True.
we vote tribal.
Well, not me.
No.
Our generation,
you see,
yes.
we see what we are saying is, even if it is not you,
Our
even if it is
generation.
not me, we take responsibility.
Our generation.
You know,
yes.
like me today, when you talk about Luos and maybe some bad things we do, I'll take responsibility, even if I don't, because I'm one and majority of us do that. So what I'm saying is that we as Kenyans, just start from how we vote our MCAs. You know, I saw Patrick Lumumba saying something one day, that in other countries, people who are stealing, doing this, they go to prison. In fact, he was saying in China, they even commit suicide because you know the consequences. And then they say in Kenya, they go for political seats and they are...
You become a politician.
Are you getting it? So if this is true, then the public must start thinking on who should I elect? And for what reason? And also take time to listen. But I can tell you, those Gen Zs we are talking about, because I've been involved in politics because I campaigned to be a politician. If today, like I have a program with women where we support them to plant commercial crops. We are not doing much commercial crops. We are doing a lot of subsistence crops. So we support them maybe to do sunflower. We support them maybe to do sorghum and sell to breweries. But when you go to a place where you are going to meet these ladies, if you get the younger people, the first thing they tell you, usituambie kitu, tupange laini. Are you getting me? Those people you are calling Gen Zs, from my experience, you go anywhere, and we can even try it with you today. We can walk even here to Mukuru, and we start talking to young people. The first thing people will tell you, Mheshimiwa tupange laini, utufungue mguu. Are you getting me?
Yeah.
So, those traits, it's not me. It's practical if you go to the ground.
True.
Even if you go to Kiambu here now, even if, you know, people are even complaining, parents are even complaining that even parents who are wealthy, who have businesses, children do not want to come to the farm. They don't want to do businesses. Forget about the poor ones. Even people from families that have wealth, that can go and supervise their farms, can go and do whatever they are doing. So it is not that they are unreasonable, as I put it to you, but our culture, the way we are bringing up people, the way things are happening, I can tell you, if we are continuing with Pangalaini, don't expect anything.
True.
Charles Owino is the head of the National Communication Center, has been our guest this hour, looking into the intrigues of future politics and the message. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Thank you for gracing the hot seat for the first time, Asante Sana. Good morning. 8:01.